What's up guys, Ruppy here, welcoming you to my team builder for week 1 of the SAPL, as my Columbus Swoo begin our latest attempt to try and finally, at long last, secure a league championship to our name. This is getting to be a really tedious journey, as we face off against the Sylveons, coached by Magic. And yes, it is just the Sylveons. He does not have a city that his team is from. He is just the Sylveons. I'm not going to question the man. Anyway. There you see his team off to the right. Obviously, we only have 11 Mons for this league. The S tier, the numerous tiers, and then the free picks. So feels a little weird building because I'm so used to a 12 Mon format as opposed to 11, but I'll make do. I'll figure something out. I mean, I've done a 10 Mon format with the Grand Pokemon League, so why not? So let's take a look at Magic's team really quick. So his S tier pick was Mew, which I'm not going to fault the guy for. Mew is a phenomenal pick and a pain to prepare for because you never know what it's going to do. Except, honestly, in this game, I think I actually have a pretty good idea of what it is going to do, because if you look over his entire team there, he is very limited on hazard options. In fact, I believe, unless Ditto copies something that has hazards or removal, Mew is his one and only hazard setter, and Mew and Flygon are his only forms of hazard removal, both of which carry defog. So there's an interesting note. So that actually makes things fairly centralized as far as what he wants to do for hazard options. So if he's going to bring hazards, it's going to be on his Mew. Plain and simple. So that might restrict him a bit in trying to prep against me. So I can easily go into this game expecting that Mew is very likely going to be at least carrying Stealth Rocks and potentially Defog as well, which would mean a more defensive set. As far as what else it carries, I think I can read and react accordingly. He has 3 different evolutions, which is really interesting. Sylveon, Vaporeon, and Umbreon, all of which pretty much have the same exact function. I mean, Sylveon can potentially go more offensive, and Pixelate Hyper Voice still hurts even with the Pixelate nerf this gen. But Umbreon and Vaporeon do pretty much the same thing, aside from the fact that Umbreon is more likely to use Foul Play to be able to just punish physical attackers, while Vaporeon will try to punish them by burning them with Scald if it doesn't toxic them first. But all 3 of them can serve as Clerics and Wish Passers, so that's fun. Mimikyu! That's going to be fun to play against. It's been a while since I've actually faced an opposing Mimikyu. I don't actually believe I've faced an opposing one in draft format yet, though, which could get interesting. Put quotations around that word. Mimikyu, honestly, actually isn't as big of a problem to my team as it may be to others. I know that Disguise can be a pain because it basically gives it a chance to set up a free Sword Stance if he wants to go that route, but honestly, I think I've got the physical bulk necessary to be able to handle Mimikyu fairly nicely. Meloetta, he got criticized a lot for this. In the draft, he actually drafted Meloetta as his very first pick, which, I believe Meloetta was a tier 4 draft pick, too. So that was quite interesting, to say the least. But Meloetta is fairly versatile. I actually drafted it in a different league. I don't know if I'll upload that league to YouTube yet or not. We're still kind of wrapping up the draft at this point for that one. Sorry for the cut there. Got interrupted by the phone ringing. Go figure. Always seems to happen whenever I'm recording. It's like they know. Anyway, getting back on track. Meloetta is a fairly versatile option. I mean, he can put Mons to sleep with Relic Song, although he has to be wary of the sleep clause for that. So if he wants to turn it into Meloetta fighting, he can. Honestly, Meloetta's normal form, the Aria form, is actually a little more threatening to my team. But it's one I honestly believe I'm capable of handling in the long run. Kling Clang, it can set up shift gears and make itself faster. It can use Gear Grind to try to wear me down with multi-hit moves, break any potential sashes that I may want to run, or Sturdy, or whatnot. Ditto, I've already mentioned this thing. You know what it does by now. Imposter, comes in, copies something, most likely Scarfed, tries to wreak havoc. Flygon! I have actually not faced one in draft format as far as the current generation's concerned, because Flygon got a new toy with Sun and Moon, for those of you who do not realize it, in Dragon Dance. And against anyone else, a Dragon Dancing Flygon might potentially pose a problem, but I believe I have the defensive mons that are actually able to take it on fairly nicely. And his last two down there are Alolan Raichu and Weavile. Alolan Raichu is interesting just because of the electric psychic type. Provides him a fast mon if he wants to try to set up electric terrain with something. Then Surge Surfer is going to make that thing stupidly fast. But again, he's running into the issue of my team composition. Kind of not really giving Raichu too many opportunities to really do much. Weavile could be a problem because it's the fastest mon on his team. And it gets access to priority Ice Shard as well in case I try to overcome that with Choice Scarf or anything. Knockoff will also probably be a bit of a pain. I'm not too concerned about Weavile, but it could pose some problems if I let it. Basically is what it boils down to in my opinion. So, there's a quick rundown of his team. Now let's go over my team really quick. I'm getting these team moves knocked out a little faster. I'm going to try to stick to that. So, the first mon I'm going with here is my Steelix, Gold Mine. Plain and simple, I take one good look at his team, and I realize that Steelix pretty much mows it down. Barring the occasional risk of Focus Blast, or Low Kick in the case of his Weavile, Flygon would have access to Earthquake as well, but, I mean, Steelix is... I mean, if you take a look quick at Steelix's defensive stat, even with only 4 defense EVs, even at level 50, that is still a really good defense stat right there. So, I'm not too overly concerned about it. But, yeah, basically the general plan here is Gold Mine is pretty much, in the back of my mind, my biggest win con here, because it just mows his team down. It eats hits for days, it can heal back up with leftovers. Sturdy makes sure that even if I do catch a stray Focus Blast or anything like that, I will be able to live the hit and be able to retaliate back. Earthquake and Heavy Slam are pretty self-explanatory. There is really nothing on his team that actually resists or is immune to both of those attacks. So I'm fairly safe to spam them to kind of mow him down. Toxic, obviously, wear down his mons, especially his walls or things like Flygon. It can Dragon Dance up all day. Between Toxic and repeated Heavy Slams, that thing is not going to be taking on Gold Mine very well. And you see Magnet Rise on there. So Magnet Rise is there explicitly for the Flygon, because I have a really good feeling he's going to bring it, for the simple fact that I have a lot of my more threatening mons are on the faster end of the speed spectrum. And with a Dragon Dance or two, Flygon is able to keep pace and even outspeed them. However, to avoid taking too many stray Earthquakes if that thing gets too high in boosts, one Magnet Rise from Steelix, and that gives me a couple turns where he is not going to be able to touch me with Earthquake, so he's going to have to rely on a different attacking option, which is pretty much going to most likely be a resisted hit, which the Dragon Dances are not going to really help him out too much with. Which allows me a couple turns for Gold Mine to Toxic it, spam Heavy Slam, and basically just wear the thing down until it dies one way or another. Everything else, yeah, that's pretty much the same general plan except minus Magnet Rise. Magnet Rise is there specifically for the Flygon, but Steelix on its own is capable of beating his entire team depending on how he preps for it. because I would hope he would see how big a problem Steelix is, but we'll see how it goes, because he also said this is his first attempt at a Draft League format, whereas I have gone through several of these by now, even if most of them haven't ended up on YouTube. The next mon I'm bringing is Monokuma, my Pangoro. And before a certain someone I know gets mad at me, hey Howler, how's it going? Yeah, I kind of borrowed your nickname for Pangoro, Danganronpa reference. Why not? It fits. And since things didn't work out for your one draft format league kind of staying stable, why not? I wasn't gonna let Monokuma the Pangoro go to waste. It might seem a bit weird that I'm bringing Pangoro because of how slow it is, even with max speed investment. But Monokuma's really here more so for the moments where he has most of his walls in. So, if he runs a more defensive Mew, or, say, Vaporeon, Umbreon, Sylveon, even Kling maybe to some degree, basically the general plan is bring it in on one of those, and I'm pretty much guaranteed either a kill or a very big hit on something. Because knockoff Drain Punch, Gunk Shot, and Bullet Punch with a Life Orb and Iron Fist is going to do a truckload to pretty much anything that thinks it can take this thing on. And I have the added benefit of, if he tries to switch Mimikyu in on this, I break its disguise, and then I'm free to pepper it with Bullet Punch and hopefully kill the dang thing. I know, it sounds weird that I'm not cursing, but YouTube, ad nonsense, yada yada yada. You know the drill. You know the story by now, I'm sure you do. Anyway, so that's basically why I decided to bring Monokuma, for the simple fact that it is a very threatening wall breaker. I could have brought Exploud as well, but I opted to simply bring Monokuma because, honestly, I think it has a much better matchup, plus the fact that once Mimikyu's disguise is gone, there is no way on Earth that thing wants to eat a Bullet Punch from Monokuma. So, I really toyed with the idea of running Mold Breaker instead of Iron Fist to actually dent Mimikyu with Bullet Punch through the disguise. But I ultimately opted against it for two reasons. One, I hit much harder with Iron Fist than I do with Mold Breaker. And two, I have Steelix, which walls Mimikyu to eternity and back. And honestly, Mimikyu's disguise is probably going to be busted by something at some point during this match, so that will give me an opening for Monokuma to basically deal with Mimikyu without having to resort to anything too gimmicky. Next mon on the list is Quartz, my Landorus-Therian. Running a defensive set for this game, I opted for running a more offensive set, potentially even a Scarf. But to be honest, for the few fast things he has on his team, a Scarf really does me no good against Weavile because Ice Shard still causes a truckload of damage. And Alolan Raichu probably does not want to take this thing on, period. I mean, there's a pretty good chance it'll probably pack Hidden Power Ice. But barring that, Quartz outspeeds just about everything anyway. Intimidate really puts me in a better position to handle things. And since I'm not doing it with Steelix, Quartz is going to be my rock setter. In addition, I'm running Earthquake for stab, which obviously is just going to plow through everything. U-turn for momentum purposes, since my team is nothing but VoltTurn spam, as amused as I am by that how the draft turned out in that way still. And I'm running HP Ice again, specifically for the Flygon, just because in the same vein that Flygon can't really touch Steelix with Steelix with Earthquakes, it can't touch Landorus-Therian with Earthquakes either, and I know I can eat an extra hit or two if it runs Outrage because of the Intimidate, which will allow me a chance to be able to smack the thing with a Hidden Power Ice and do a truckload of damage because of the fact that it's ground flying, so it's a quad weakness, even though having the lack of special attack because I'm running what is it I'm running? It's Impish. Okay, Impish. running Impish. I forget the natures off, most of the natures off the top of my head, guys. I apologize. But yeah, HP Ice is still going to hit the thing really hard, and if the thing is toxic beforehand or just worn down in general from trying to dance with Steelix, then Landorus-Therian might have a chance to basically come in and pick it off with an HP Ice, depending on how many Dragon Dances he tried setting up in the meantime. But that's the basic plan. Moving on to my last 3 Mons here. We have Rotom-Wash. Laundry Day. See you there. Under things. Tumbling. Yep, that's exactly why I nicknamed it Laundry Day. Good old reference to Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. Can't go wrong with a reference like that. The downside to this is Laundry Day is the only special attacker I'm bringing, but honestly, I think my team can pretty much wear it down. He doesn't really have anything that stands out necessarily as a major threat that I can't wear down in some form or another from a defensive standpoint, if I can be perfectly honest. And the main reason I decided to bring Laundry Day is mostly so I have something to deal with Vaporeon, because otherwise Vaporeon is probably going to cause me some headaches. Vaporeon is probably his most likely win con, along with the Flygon and to some degree the Weavile. I'm not as concerned about the Ditto, as shocking as that might sound, and I'll explain why in a moment. But Laundry Day, fairly standard defensive set. I know I don't have much in the way of special defensive walls, but I think I can take on what he's packing, especially special defensively, just by outpacing it and blasting it into oblivion with my last 2 Mons you see down there, but I'll get to those shortly. So, Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Will-O-Wisp, and Thunderbolt. I'm foregoing Pain Split simply because I feel I can get enough back with leftovers. I know there's the very likely chance I might get Toxic by something, but Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, I decided was the better option, so I'm not always Volt Switching on a Vaporeon because it can eat the Volt Switches. Not too well, but it can eat them. And I don't want to switch into something that's going to then eat a Scald and certainly not appreciate it. So T-Bolt gives me a stronger option to hit there. Plus, he doesn't have anything that, well, other than the Flygon, but I can easily, since I've got Levitate, I'm immune to Earthquake, so I can easily Will-O-Wisp the thing if it tries to Dragon Dance in my face, and then just pepper it with Hydro Pumps, which it's not going to appreciate because it's actually a neutral hit because of the ground typing. Next up, as much as I debated whether or not I wanted to bring this Mon, I decided I want to take my new toy for a test drive. My S-tier pick, Apophobia, the Mega Beedrill. The nickname comes from one of the numerous of scientific terms, I guess, the phobia names, for a fear of bees, which I will actually admit to having. I do not like bees in the slightest. It doesn't help I'm allergic to them. But Apophobia is here to put the fear of the bee into Magic and his team, and the rest of the league as well. Obviously, Swarm is going to be its ability before it Mega Evolves, but honestly, that ability is going to be irrelevant because I have to Mega Evolve right out of the gate anyway. And obviously, when I do Mega Evolve, it gets adaptability, so this thing is just going to hit stupidly hard. I'm actually running a bit of a 6th gen set here, with U-Turn, Poison Jab, Knockoff, and Protect. Protect does feel a bit unnecessary because of the changes to the Mega mechanics so that I get my speed boost when I Mega Evolve as opposed to having to wait a turn. But the reason I'm running Protect is to scout for priority moves. So I can scout to see if his Weavile is going to try to Ice Shard me, or if his Mimikyu is going to attempt to Shadow Sneak me, just so I can respond accordingly, just to keep Apophobia from taking too many big hits, especially if rocks end up going up in this game against me because I'm not bringing a spinner. I probably should bring some form of hazard removal, but I just have this feeling it's not really going to be too necessary. I just have this feeling in the back of my mind that I'm going to be able to get away with not needing to run it. I mean, he's probably going to set up rocks with his Mew, but I'll go from there, because I only have 2 Mons that are necessarily bothered by rocks, to be perfectly honest. The main reason I'm running this set in particular and not trying anything like, say, Drill Run for the likes of Alolan Raichu and Klinklang is because of the Ditto. By running this specific set, if he thinks he's going to be able to use Ditto to turn my biggest weapon and first round pick against me, he's going to be in for a rude awakening because Mega Beedrill does not beat my Steelix set. So if he tries to transform into Apophobia, Steelix is going to wall him basically to the ends of the earth. So that's going to basically limit Ditto's usefulness. And there are a lot of things on my team that Ditto just does not want to really face in general, regardless of what it transforms into, so I'm not as concerned about it. The last mon I'm bringing is the draft pick a lot of people questioned me on, my Talonflame, who, in the spirit of Diva from Overwatch, in the spirit of her oh-so-glorious catchphrase, I nicknamed it, Nerf This. Because, obviously, the big talking point about Talonflame is the fact that Gale Wings got nerfed hard heading into this gen, because now it only operates when you're at full health. Which is one of the reasons I could see him bringing rocks, but I'm not even running Gale Wings this game. This is a set I kind of concocted just for fun, and I figured, you know what? I think it actually has the potential to really work in this game, so I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. I'm not running an item on Talonflame right for this, and Flamebite is really mostly there just for the potential burn chance on one of his physical attackers, just because. But I'm running Acrobatics, Flame Charge, Swords Dance, and Substitute. The plan I want to enact with this, and it's really going to work best if his walls are worn down a bit, especially Vaporeon and Umbreon. But I mean, if I get enough Swords Dances up, that'll be a moot point anyway. Is to set up a Substitute on something, potentially on a switch if he thinks I brought Talonflame into Brave Bird or Supersonic Sky Strike something into Oblivion. Set up a Swords Dance the next turn, especially if he brought in a wall to try to eat the hit, and preferably anyone that's not Vaporeon, but I could see Vaporeon coming in. Then Flame Charge to get a speed boost so nothing on his team outspeeds me, since I'm running Adamant for the maximum amount of power. And then from there, since I'm not running an item, basically abuse that +1 speed and the Swords Dance to basically Acrobatics everything to death. Which, let's be honest, I can do that. Acrobatics from +2 OHKOs roughly his entire team. The only things it does not are Kling Flang, which isn't going to appreciate eating Flame Charges, Vaporeon and Umbreon, but they are 2-hit KO'd by it, and Alolan Raichu. Well, actually, I think at +2, even Alolan Raichu is OHKO'd by it, now that I think about it. Mimikyu isn't just because of the disguise. If the disguise is busted, it's a whole different ballgame. I don't think Mew's 2-hit KO'd by it either, but if he is running the more defensive Mew set, it's not going to be able to do much back to me, so I can easily just Acrobatics him again. I consider running a berry on this set, and I thought long and hard about what berry I could potentially run on this, especially since I could easily see him, if I'm not behind a sub, bringing in Weavile and trying to Ice Shard me. But if I predict the Weavile switch, I think I can get behind another sub, and honestly, Ice Shard isn't doing a whole lot to me, so I'm not too concerned by it. Same to some degree with Shadow Sneak if his Mimikyu does not have a Swords Dance up. So I actually feel fairly comfortable not running an item, and this set's mostly just for fun anyway. It just happens to have the potential to be able to work. So there's that. If it works, I will just laugh about it and be happy. If it doesn't, then the rest of my team is more than capable of picking up the slack, especially if Talonflame is able to put some heavy dents into his team. So, that is the team I'm bringing to this game. Lo and behold, I got on a rambling tangent on all my mods, and it ended up being a little longer. My bad. But I think this team is really going to work out nicely, and we'll see how it plays out. So, thank you guys so very much for watching. I've been Ruppy, and my Columbus Swoo and I will see you soon for our first game of the SAPL season, and hopefully our first win en route to our latest pursuit at a championship. Take care, guys.